brilliant ideas, powered by Hyundai Motor.
With a career spanning over 2 decades, Rirkrit Tiravanija is known as an artist who defies the meaning of art. He invites you to participate, breaking the boundaries between art and life.
He's so interesting for representing a real kind of watershed moment in the history of contemporary art.
What he was searching for was really the human being. Art which is interactive, art which happens between an artist and the viewer.
Rirkrit's works are very unique because there's nothing but Rirkrit himself, the truth and the honesty.
I think what inspires Rirkrit is for an art that can, reach out and can change the way we see things.
I'm not interested in making something that sits on its ass and dies in the museum. One of the first motivations for me to make anything was against, having things be put into a case and left for the next hundreds of years.
Born to Thai parents, Rirkrit now lives and works for part of each year in Chiang Mai, in the north of Thailand. But as the son of a Thai diplomat, he had an itinerant childhood. Born in Buenos Aires, raised in Ethiopia, Thailand and Canada, and educated in Chicago and New York. His life has been a constant negotiation of cultures and languages.
It was that moment when you realize, oh, maybe I haven't really understood myself at all, and I don't really know what it means to be Thai. I wasn't really a Westerner, and I wasn't really a Thai. I felt like I was in a gap, but I actually understood also that that gap was something that could be used.
A sensitivity to cultures helped to shape Rirkrit's unique artistic outlook, starting with a visit to a Thai museum.
There was a big collection of Thai artifacts from our daily life, a Buddha, bowls, pots and pans. And I thought this was all well and fine that it's being studied and recognized as kind of cultural objects. But what really needed to be understood was actually the life around these things.
The idea of bringing art alive was to inspire one of his earliest and best-known series, Pad Thai, exhibited in New York City in 1990. But it happened almost by accident.
I was like, what am I going to do for this show? I need to find a way to rethink what art making was. And that idea was to not make very much. I thought to myself, I should do the most simple thing, the thing that I do normally every day, and that was to cook. It was kind of like stumbling and fumbling and ending up by chance in the place I should be.
Set up in a little shared space of a gallery in New York City, the Thai artist's exhibit took the art world by surprise.
He simply cooked pad thai for the audience, and this stumped a lot of people. He was understandably mistaken for the caterer. So it was a very interesting moment for him and also for the art world.
He wanted to destroy the classical model of the white cube, the museum, the gallery. That was for him not what he was searching of.
In that sense, in this question of identity, he throws it back to say, you want a kind of Thai art, so this is Thai art for you.
Every single person, no matter what background you have, where you come from, you have to eat. And this is one way that he kind of found that he can identify and he can connect to the person.
I'm trying to retrieve my own, culture and identity back into a form which is actually alive, rather than be encased and dead.
Making art come alive was to become his signature style. Next, he converted an office space at 303 Gallery in New York's Soho district into a makeshift kitchen where he served Thai curry for free.
I was cooking by myself. I wasn't cooking fast enough for everyone. So then friends started to help me cook. Kind of like a cooperative thing happened, you know, like everyone started to help each other. And this accident somehow is what, like, my work is all based on now, you know. So there was a kind of a line that had to be crossed. People were not just consuming and they were not just an audience. They actually had to get themselves involved.
People were shocked, didn't understand. Then clearly they were tempted to participate. And it became something where people don't even realize anymore that they are A, in a gallery, and B, part of an artwork. It became a social event where people began to eat, to chat, to interact with each other. And what is that? Is that art? What is art?
This blurring of boundaries was repeated in 1996, when Rirkrit made an exact replica of his apartment, which was kept open 24 hours a day. People loved it, and the installation was recreated worldwide, including for London's Serpentine galleries.
The apartment was fully functioning, so there was running water, there was a toilet, there was a bath, there was a kitchen, you know, with a stove. So people would come and they would cook and they would eat, they would have birthday parties, they had marriages. But I think that the work itself was a kind of turning point. From the work with the kitchen and the cooking, I think Tomorrow is Another Day became a platform. And I think, in a way, a lot of the work that I've done since then is pretty much about making a platform.
After the break, we take a look at why Rirkrit returned to Thailand and how his work continues to break out of the confines of the traditional exhibition. Rirkrit Tiravanija is one of a kind. He's an artist, the artwork, and the audience. He's best known for converting museums and galleries into kitchens, and above all, for making audiences part of his art. After spending much of his early career in New York, and also establishing a studio in Berlin, Rirkrit spent time in Thailand in the early 2000s during a period of political unrest.
Rirkrit was always an artist which had a very, very clear social and political understanding. He's an artist who feels his environment and who reacts on his environment.
Since a military coup in 2006, the country had become divided between supporters of the ousted Prime Minister, Thaksin Shinawatra, known as the Red Shirts, and supporters of a military-backed government, the Yellow Shirts.
There are a lot of conditions here in Thailand that I don't necessarily agree with. And maybe it has to do with a sense of, like, you know, oppression or a sense of injustice.
It was in the wake of the 2010 military crackdown on anti-government red shirt protesters that Rirkrit staged his first solo exhibition in Thailand, Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow and Green?
Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow and Green, in a way, wants to discuss those situations, right? Wants to bring up the idea of, like, why are we afraid of each other?
He collected newspaper images of protests in Thailand dating back to the 70s.
You start to draw, let's say, an image from 1973, and you drew across the whole wall, and then you'd start to layer the next imagery on top of the, you know, the wall that you had drawn. And you would keep doing that until really everything turns to black. History is so layered that you can't see through it anymore.
He had art students from Silpakan University actually draw the protest drawings on the walls of the gallery. And over the course of the month, those drawings would be added to each day by artists who would come in and add new protest drawings to the walls. So this was a way for Rirkrit to provide some kind of participation for the art community here in Bangkok.
And in the middle of these murals, he served red, yellow, and green curry, the colours emblematic of the political unrest.
If you see a bit Thai politics, over years you had all these struggles between the two opposite parties in Thailand, the yellow shirts and the red shirts, and then the green uniforms, the military.
We were all kind of sharing the food together, everybody serving each other, cooking together in this gallery. It just felt more of a festivities than talk about really serious problem that the nation faced.
Another political protest, this time in the USA, was the inspiration for yet another way for Rirkrit to move his art out of the traditional confines of the art gallery.
Arrest Bush now!
During protests against George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq in 2003, he received a postcard with the political slogan, "More oil, less courage."
People were going to go to war, and there was like oil in the center of this war, you know. And I took that sentence and I kind of flipped it around, and I made this phrase, basically, less oil, more courage. And my phrase is about having less and being more brave. This phrase became a little painting that was in a very big exhibition, but somehow it had a big impact on a lot of people.
Rirkrit cleverly used the ubiquity of words in daily life to bring his art to people's attention by printing his own art slogans on T-shirts.
I see that as also quite a clever artistic strategy of activating, audiences as potential medium and material to further certain messages, certain slogans, and certain ideas that are important to him.
I'm not interested in telling people how to think. I'm certainly interested in making people trip over things.
Rirkrit didn't stop at T-shirts. His messages were reproduced on the beaches of Miami and even on ping pong tables in Moscow.
There are, again, like road signs, When you carry it around, people look at them, they may pick something up. So again, it's about like putting a little sign somewhere that might just happen to pass in front of you and trip you.
So I think this is where his approach is quite unique and more inclusive and more friendly.
He doesn't preach to you. He's just telling you to think and to be aware of your surroundings and to always question what you accept as the norm.
Words are again central to his large-scale work for the 2015 Venice Biennale. He built a brick factory, stamping the message, "Never work," in Chinese characters onto bricks.
We walk into a space where we see a assemblage of unfired bricks laid out in a partial structure, just hinting that, these are bricks that are meant to, make buildings, but it's also quite incomplete.
The work involved putting the message on 14,086 bricks, the exact number of bricks you need to build a traditional Chinese family home.
And then inside the gallery, there were like 3 or 4 workers who would stamp the bricks, and then they would put the bricks into the oven. And the stamp on the brick says "stop to work" in Chinese, basically "ne travaille jamais." So the idea was like they're continuing to, work to stop to work,
The irony of brickmakers stamping the message "stop to work" while continuing to work encapsulates for Rirkrit a very human dilemma.
We continue to put ourselves into a position of survival or of the necessity to climb up whatever ladder, but we stop paying attention to why or what it is it all for,
Rirkrit also continues to subvert artistic conventions. Each brick made at the exhibition can be bought for €10. and proceeds are donated to an NGO supporting workers' rights.
You see these bricks, and I see you can buy these bricks for a small amount. Yeah, wonderful. If I think a bit more, okay, maybe it's a bit a political statement against manufacturing or exploiting of workers in China, fine. But it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. What means family policy in China? What means family against the development of the huge community? All these different layers shows also how educated Rirkrit is. He reads a lot, he investigates a lot, he thinks a lot. He's an intellectual. He's not only a dreamer or not only a manufacturer. And that's at the end the art I love.
After the break, we visit Rirkrit's most personal project, where he combines art with life. And we watch as he experiments with print work. A winner of the Hugo Boss Prize for Contemporary Art, Rirkrit Tiravanija is a hot ticket on the international art circuits. His ability to create layered works across mediums and platforms to ask fundamental questions is what makes him so unique. One of the earliest projects that continues to be integral to his life as an artist is the Land Foundation.
We're at the Land Foundation in northern Thailand, about half an hour drive outside of Chiang Mai. The idea of the foundation is that it's open for people to come and use and experiment. We're not interested in making art here, actually. It was never intended to be an art project. It was more about like a place for discussion, a meeting place of a retreat. I think as artists, we would like to live and work without having to have everything become a kind of property or become a commodity.
Rirkrit has always been interested in how to encourage artists and the public even to think about more closely living with nature and living what he might call a more authentic life.
The whole place itself is about possibilities, you know. If I didn't have to have anything else in the world, I could just stay here, you know, that's enough.
It's less about, you know, the artworks or the objects that are being made, but really how do artists start to transform themselves first? How are they able to use art as a way of imagining other models of living?
Rirkrit explored this question in a feature film that premiered at the Venice Film Festival in 2011. It features a retired rice farmer whose simple life is in stark contrast to the daily turmoil elsewhere in the country.
I noticed there was always this man, and he was a kind of a very old and charismatic man, so I kind of was very interested in him, and I found out, and he's a very gentle, very humbled man.
Oh,
Rirkrit followed Uncle Niao around for 4 days.
You know, he just did whatever he would have done on a normal day. He went fishing, going to the mountain, going to the, you know, temple. He was talking to people, visiting friends. For me, it was like a miracle. He walked up this hill, and the sun came out, and the water buffaloes came across the stream. And, you know, and all this happened by itself. We didn't set anything up. We made real cinema without having to make anything.
In some ways, that film fits very beautifully with his lifelong interest in how to come into a closer relationship with nature, or a more authentic life, not so mediated by politics or consumerism.
I learned that there's a way to live with a lot less than how we are doing it today, and still be very dignified and happy, you know, with your life.
Contemplating and questioning life are themes that underpin all of his work. From his earliest project, the Land Foundation, to his latest print works made during a residency at the Singapore Tyler Print Institute.
He's been a great example for how an artist develops by constantly experimenting, constantly expanding the range of their materials and what they can accomplish throughout that process.
It's such a medium that has its own frame, you know. So it's a challenge to have to make something within that frame.
Even Rirkrit's more playful work is thoughtful. His latest print works come from a night out with artist friends, where Rirkrit played a game to identify his animal personality. This inspired Rirkrit to create prints based on his chosen animal, the fruit fly, as well as the animal personalities of his friends, the hummingbird and the cuttlefish.
I like the idea of the fruit fly because, of course, the fruit fly lives very short. But in its short lifespan, or this kind of quick turnaround of life, it's very important in science because they can study the change or the adaptation or how the genes are changing.
A great example that Rirkrit does not plan things like specifically. This was very random. It was just to have fun.
For an artist that never uses traditional art methods, his techniques are similar to his ideas, spontaneous. His first step was to experiment with watercolors, dripping and flinging paint across the blank paper.
It's kind of like painting calligraphy, but no control. In a way, we don't know what the result will be.
He dries the work to melt the ink, and then, at very high pressure, he prints his work.
The thing about the monoprint, of course, is that it's one-off. So it's a kind of funny counter idea of printmaking. Instead of being able to make multiple, we're only making one.
From printing to cooking to stamping slogans on bricks, Rirkrit stops at nothing to make us pause, pay attention, and ask ourselves some of life's most important questions.
The role of the artist is to raise certain questions which makes us reflecting a bit and bringing us to certain points and decisions.
I think that's why his art is so good, because art is not separate from our daily lives, because our life is an art.
Like any game, you must take part in that game. Without the audience participating, it's not being activated. So they are integral to completing the artwork.
For people to question, is this art, or to be confused, or for people to even find this, ludicrous, I mean, I think these are perfectly acceptable responses, because it is in these, feelings and these questions that people then can begin to, unpackage what art should be.
An artist is somebody who's free enough not to have to know anything. I'm the kind of artist who never say the word art, and I'm the kind of artist who never think of himself as an artist. I don't have an ambition, really. I do what I can, and I hope that they use what I do to make the difference.
Brilliant ideas, powered by Hyundai Motor.